The Business Owner's Journey. I'm Nick Berry, and I've got real business owners telling their real stories, sharing their real lessons and strategies so you don't have to figure it all out on your own. I am wrapping up season 1 of The Business Owner's Journey with this special mini-series, The 12 Days of Business. 12 days, 12 episodes with 12 of my previous guests. And today's episode, I have Vivien Hudson, who's coming back and sharing some extra tips for business owners to manage their stress and get healthier in 2025. Vivien is a stress and performance coach, and she's the founder of Brain, Body, and Business. She's also a former pharmacist and a pharmacy owner. She owned multiple pharmacies, actually, and who now has branded herself as the anti-pharmacist, which I love. Because that reflects her approach to prevention and staying healthy and not just treating being unhealthy. And so the message that she brought to this episode is really about just having some agency over your health and figuring out what you can do and not relying on health care to address it when you become unhealthy. She brought a great list of really simple things that give just about anybody options. And the idea is just to keep moving. Aside from us talking about my bad habits, we talked about some of the things that I'm also doing well. I use a stand-up desk, and I've also got voice to text that has really gotten me untethered from my office chair. I'm a big believer in her philosophy about taking responsibility for your health, regardless of your situation. Don't let what you can't do get in the way of focusing on what you can do. And when that little voice pops up in the back of your head and it starts reminding you about the obstacles and the roadblocks and the things that you can't do, just remember that voice is distracting you from what you could do. And then if you enjoy the show, you can show your support by subscribing. And I'd love for you to share it with any one of your business-minded friends. Every episode and guest page on nickberry.info has the little share this buttons on it. So you can just click and share directly to any other website, any social platform, paste the link. You can also get the episodes sent to you by email, which you could then very easily forward along to someone who's deserving. To get those emails sent to you, you just need to go to nickberry.info/12 days. That's the number 12 days. When you subscribe to the email, you will get the episodes sent to you. You will also get all of the guest profiles and then all of the resources that come along with each of the episodes. And these are things that we only do through email. So remember, to get those, you need to go to nickberry.info/12 days. That's the number 12 days. Now, enjoy the show and have a healthier 2025.
I think it's this proactive approach to health. Like, I feel like in light of recent events and with the changing government, that healthcare is ready for a shake-up. And I think it's time for people to really take health into their own hands and not rely on a pill or the medical system to really help them to help themselves. It's time to say, hey, what can I do to help myself? To question some of the things that the current medical system says that they should do. And I just started reading Casey Means' book, Good Energy, and she talked about the story about her mom who died of cancer, and they wanted her to, I don't remember if it was a surgery or give her drugs and something, but they wanted to hospitalize her. And Casey Means is a doctor, and she's like, well, no, we want to keep her at home and have her as comfortable as possible, because her cancer was so advanced it wasn't going to cure her. It was just going to distance her from her family so that she wouldn't be able to have those last days at home. So sometimes, are we feeding the medical system, or are we feeding what feeds our heart and souls? And sometimes, it means saying no to the care that's being offered.
Yeah. Like being willing and able to advocate for yourself. And something that I was thinking about at the beginning of this conversation, when you were talking about like the healthcare system and the options for health insurance, and I was just thinking, like, you just can't afford to be reliant on those things anymore. And I mean, afford, like, probably literally financially for some people, but also like you just can't afford to entrust your well-being and give that up to somebody else to make decisions and look out for you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I know doctors will tell you, like, you've got to lose weight and exercise, but they don't give you the tools. And that's where you need a lot of that mindset reprogramming to help to disconnect the emotional connection and the associations that we have with food and exercise that stop us from doing those things. Because if, like, who wants to exercise? Like, unless you're an exercise junkie, like, well, I'll do it later, or I have to. And like you go through that, okay, I've got my shoes on, I'm going. And then when you come back, you feel good. But that first part is always like, well, I'd rather sit here and drink my coffee or stay in bed for another 10 minutes. Like,
yeah.
That's what people.
Well, I think, weren't you telling me that, I think it was you that was saying, like, you have your routine, right? Where you want to get up and get started, and there's kind of like a peaceful entrance to the day where you have your time and your coffee and you do your routine, and that works for you. And then like mine's almost the exact opposite. Like, I have to go do the work without thinking about it, because if I think about it, I can find a way to do something different. But it's like figuring out which way works for you.
Yeah. And the key is always like tapping into that emotion. How do you feel at the end of it? How do you feel when you've done it? Because that's what you need to tap in tomorrow morning when you wake up. How did I feel when I got home yesterday? So I did it.
Yeah.
And then it shortens that conversation that you have with yourself.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, to apply that in my situation, like if I pause and think about it, and almost give myself an opportunity to like weigh out the decision, I have to tell myself, like, it doesn't matter the way that you feel right now. What matters is the way that you're going to feel afterwards. That's how I have to resell it to myself.
Yeah. You got to look after your own health. And that means managing your stress as an entrepreneur. Like the biggest thing that causes disease is stress, and couple that with inactive lifestyles. I think we talked about this before. How much time do you spend at your computer each day, Nick?
Yeah.
If you sit for more than 6 hours each day, then that's kind of putting you at risk. And that's how we do our marketing. That's how we build our content. It's how we have our meetings. Like, there's so much stuff that we're doing in front of our computers. So, and then we add stress to that. And
so talking about the being in front of the computer, because in my mid 30s, I was, 12-hour days in a seat most of the time. I would get up and go work out in the middle of the day. But that was rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic, right? Like, it was not doing anything. Now I use a stand-up desk all the time. I probably do. I'm in front of my computer most of the day, but I stand and I move a lot. Like, sitting for this, 30-minute conversation is about my limit for how long I'm going to sit in a place. And I think making that a habit has been a really good thing for me. I'll kind of get itchy or like start fidgeting around more if I'm sitting for very long. And so that's been a good habit for me to build. It took a little bit of time, but that's kind of been my way of not getting into that trap of just sitting and then it's sitting in front of the computer. So everything's pulling me forward, and I am not in my 30s anymore. And so I lean forward to see more clearly what's on the screen. So it did take its toll, and I am trying to fight it. But those are some of the things that I do to try to fight it. Can you give me some other ideas?
Yeah, so absolutely. Like, we wear these watches, right? They remind us to move, but it becomes a blur of notifications. So I think minimizing as many notifications that you do get on your wearables, so that you can, when you do get a notification, it's something that you pay attention to. So as you said, a standing desk works well. As a pharmacist, I had a standing desk for 25 years or whatever. And that in itself is not great if you're not moving. And I do like those walking pads that they've got now that you can kind of do like a slow walk while you're actually working, interspersing a few squats, or like I could stand at my computer here and do a few squats while I'm typing still. And even just taking, like, I've got a treadmill at home, or obviously there's outside as well, just taking a short 5 or 10 minute break to have that little bit of downtime. Because I think often as entrepreneurs, like people or business owners, you get stuck. There's always something to do. There's always something else that's got to be handled, an invoice that's got to be paid, or an email that's got to be answered. And it's having enough discipline to say, hey, you know what? My health is important, and let's just break away from this for 5 minutes, 10 minutes. And just tell yourself, I'll go for a 5-minute walk, and that 5 minutes might turn to 20. And you'll feel better at the end of the day, because you haven't gone, oh gosh, I've just sat all day. Look, it's 5 o'clock and I've only done 1,000 steps all day. Which I'm not going to say hasn't happened to me. So I'm, human like everybody else, but so it just requires that consistent effort.
Sorry. One of the things about that I've kind of seen with getting out and taking a walk, right? So 5 minutes is good if that's what you need to do to start, and it can turn into 20. And most of the time with the entrepreneur, the business owner, all the things that they feel like they can't get away, right? It's the story that you're telling yourself, but really we can't. Number one, it's probably not the end of the world. It actually probably is a good thing if you step away and do disconnect and just be where you're at. But if you actually couldn't do that, if you needed to still like produce while you're taking your walk, if we would put almost as much effort into figuring out how to make that possible as we have figuring out how to like accommodate work from home or any of the other challenges, like it's doable. This year I've started doing a lot more voice to text. So like, I don't have to be in front of my computer. I don't have to do everything in my like little box here. And so just doing voice to text, that alone has nearly untethered me from my desktop. So I can go out and I can go for a walk. I can go somewhere and I can sit and I can do, there are still things that I can do or things that I can do differently and still like produce if that's what I needed to do and still be out and move. And, sometimes I might be a little bit out of breath, short of breath while I'm doing something, but you know what? It's probably going to be all right. It's better than the alternative if we're thinking like big picture, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's just crazy. Like, if you have a look at metabolism and how metabolism, let's say, evolves, a lot of it comes from muscle mass, which we're not growing muscle mass if we're standing or sitting at our computer. And then we've also got to have enough protein in our diet to create the muscle mass. Well, once you have good muscle mass, that's what fuels your metabolism. And when you have good metabolism, that's what safeguards you against a lot of these chronic diseases. And if we throw cortisol into the mix with that inactivity, then, that's just a storm waiting to happen. So, yeah, there's a lot of little nuances that I think that we can fit into our day that we can use to safeguard our health. And also, as you say, just untethering ourselves, that is the end result. Like, that's really what we want to aim for.
Awesome. Well, thank you. That's great. I appreciate you coming on and sharing some tips.
Yes. Thanks, Nick.
Thank you so much for listening. If you found the show valuable, you can say thanks and show your support simply by taking a quick second to like, share, and comment on the show. You can also find more information about each of my guests, all of the resources from the show, and myself at nickberry.info/TBOJ.